So today I shared a reel about my own personal life in the sense when I had my son Amado. I was 45 years old. And it was exciting because, you know, when you're either you're buying something or you're going to do something new in your life, you always try to ask people for advice. What's your advice on this? So my first baby at 45, I asked a lot of questions. I wanted to know, I wanted to be a good dad. I wanted to know what to expect. And of course, you know this, people give you all types of advice. And then the problem is there's a lot of information out there on many things. But in regards to getting my son vaccinated, I saw videos. I started researching some things. I started talking to different people. And there's people that scared me, some people that encouraged me, and there was a lot of information. But one of the things that I enjoyed is talking to people that had real life experiences on this particular topic. So one of them was Nico, David, and many other people. But then I remember going online and talking about my decision in regards to vaccines. And you can imagine it was so weird because I got a lot of love and I got a lot of hate, which is very, very interesting. And one of the things that I understood is because of this, is because we're dealing with one of the most important things in our lives, our kids. One of the most beautiful miracles we have. And we want to protect our kids and we want to do the best for our kids, right? So that's one of the reasons that I started to gather information. I'm like, what do I do? How can I be the best father? How can I be the best protector, right? So, but I know that this particular topic is very delicate. Why? Because we're talking about our kids and all of us want the best for our kids. So, and we've done this particular segment once. And Rosa Maria says, I'm so excited for this chat this evening. We need more awareness of autism. So my first question, Nico, why isn't there a lot of information about this?
Well, because people don't want to face reality. In my opinion, people don't want to face reality. You know, I was thinking about it. You know, Davi and I, we didn't plan this out. You know that, Salo. And thank you and Jeff for being part of this. This can go in many directions. We want to honor people's time, so we don't want to make, it's not going to be a Joe Rogan podcast, even though it probably could. This can go in the direction of vaccines. This can go in the direction of reality of autism and autism spectrum disorder.
Got it.
So we're going to talk about Bobby Kennedy's statements that pissed a bunch of people off, apparently. And then this can go in the direction of family identity. This can go in the direction of divorce.
Yeah.
Very high divorce rate of over 85%.
And I'm glad you said it can go so many directions. Yeah. But one of the reasons, Nico, and I tell people, because today when I posted that video, I had 5 people that were very passionate about the topic in different ways.
Yeah.
Pro-vaccine, pro-truth, against vaccines. There's different ways to see this. And they approached that conversation with me in a very passionate way. And I understood. One of them in particular, this person from Austin, he texted me, he said, hey bro, can I call you? And he was mad. And he said, why are you making this like this? And why are you talking about this? And I had to take a step back and I'm like, okay, I understand. I know where they're coming from. It's their kids. It's their children. And sometimes we want to
What was he mad about?
Because he, like many topics, they think that we're politicizing this topic, the autism, because of RFK.
Right.
Yeah, but anyway, I know, it's interesting. It's interesting. But the thing that I understand, it's a very sensitive subject for a lot of people. But anyway, this conversation started because a lot of us saw the comments that RFK made, right? When you heard, you know what, let's play it. I think it's number 2. Number 2?
Yeah, let's start there.
Let's start there. This is what provoked it.
These are children who should not be suffering like this. These are kids who, many of them were fully functional and regressed because of some environmental exposure into autism when they're 2 years old. And these are kids who will never pay taxes, they'll never hold a job, they'll never play baseball, they'll never write a poem, they'll never go out on a date. Many of them will never use a toilet unassisted. And we have to recognize we are doing this to our children.
That last statement, we are doing this to our children. And I think that's why it becomes very delicate.
So in the interest of full disclosure, Davi and I know Bobby. We know him, not close friends like we are with you and Jeff.
Yeah.
But he's not an acquaintance either.
No.
I've advocated with him in DC on medical freedom, on vaccine awareness, on pro-truth arguments. I'm not anti or pro any. I'm pro-truth. I'm not pro-vaccine, anti-vaccine, all those damn labels people try to put on each other. So I come from that position, but I also come from the position, if anybody knows me, that I'm a truth scavenger.
Gotcha.
I'm going to pursue truth and I'm going to advocate truth and I'm going to adjust to truth.
Well, let me stop you there, just for people that don't know. When you say I'm not anti-vax, right? Because there's people that are pro-vax and there's people that are anti-vax. You say you're pro-truth. What do you mean by that?
Well, the scripture says in John 8:31, the truth will set you free, right? And so
The difference between not being anti-vax and being pro-truth, what's the difference there?
because the people want to label you, and if they can label you, they can justify in their minds not listening to you.
Got it.
Well, I'm pro this, you're anti this. We don't need to talk,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
Chula?
We
And
can't
so
have it.
and that would just shut you down. Versus, I'm gonna pro truth. If you can show me that the truth means that I should stick a bunch of needles in my kid, I'll make him a pincushion. I want to pursue the truth. I do that as a profession, as a lawyer. I've prosecuted at the highest level. I've defended at the highest level. I'm an evidence guy. I'm the same way about my faith. You know that very well. You and Jeff and George and Davi knows that. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to pursue truth. We're going to mold to the truth, and then we're going to advocate the truth. That's just an ideological position we take. So that's why I don't say I'm anti-vax. I'm pro-truth. And if the truth leads me away from vaccines, well, then that's where I'm going to go.
Gotcha.
If the truth leads me to vaccines, I'm
Totally,
going to go.
totally.
So when Bobby said that, that is something that Bobby has said for years.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
That's right, Chula. That's nothing new. Bobby has said that for years, and I'm going to read something later on from a friend of ours, Jackie Schlegel. If I mispronounce that, Jackie, please forgive me. She's a strong advocate on medical freedom. She's in Austin all during this session, advocating for legislation. She's a warrior, and she's had a beautiful post to respond to this backlash Bobby appears to have gotten. And I don't understand it. I think there's a lot of guilt in our world. I know when I bring up the fact, because when I was district attorney, I mean, again, not to make this about vaccines yet, but we can go wherever the people want to go. I said vaccines can and do cause autism, and that went ape shit. I mean, it went global, literally global. When I say global,
it can and they do.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, here, let me jump in here really quick because the reason I wanted to do this, or I said, it should be, done, just after seeing these comments and the little statements that, that he made. I had people actually sending them to me. Hey, have you seen this?
Yeah.
How do you feel about it? Isn't it crazy? It was just a lot of negative towards it. And not only that I started getting private messages about it, but people were posting it and reposting it and just saying, he is so crazy. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's just hurting our community. He's hurting these kids. He's like not giving us hope. He's giving up on them. I mean, just all this negative context with it. But then for me, I mean, reading and hearing his statements, none of that affected me in a negative way, saying that I'm offended by what he's saying. I'm offended by, the statements that he's given, because as in right now, us as a family, pretty much all those statements are true.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, it's not to say that, or to say that it could change, God willing, he can do all things. And then, with services and therapies and help and whatever. I mean, Michael can be completely a different person in a couple of years, whatever. But at this time, hopefully. But at this time, I mean, there are families that this is not their situation.
What do you think the parents of autistic kids were offended with? You think it was offended because he's lying, or do you think
he's not lying,
or he's wrong?
I think just the fear more than anything. The fear of it being true. I feel like
their hope was attacked. You think?
Of course.
Yeah,
I feel like
I think so. Some people, I mean, like, there's some guy on the comments that he's an idiot. There's no studies. We'll talk about studies if you want to talk about studies or the lack of studies when it comes to what Bobby has been advocating for decades. Now, this is nothing new. And if you watch that video again, he has a voice condition.
Yeah.
So somebody attacked him because he couldn't even say it without stuttering. That's his voice.
Yeah.
He's been working on that for decades. It's ironic that he's just pushed through that. Look, I differ with Bobby on some political issues, but that guy's true blue.
Yeah.
And his whole family has turned on him. He's given up a bunch of money. Children's Health Defense organization is insanely credible, and they have a lot of very, very intelligent PhD level people on their board, and their research is second to none. Bobby is anything but an idiot. I promise you that. And if you watch that video, you can sense he's getting emotional.
Yeah.
He gets emotional when he talks, because he sees the mamas, and it's mainly the moms. And there's another discussion on why do dads check out.
Right.
And mommies fight this alone, which leads to that 85+% divorce rate, by the way. and men need to step the hell up and lead their families and love their wives and encourage their wives and take all that comes with raising a child and the responsibility of raising a child. But Bobby gets emotional because he senses it. He's very empathetic.
He's been in it for so long.
He's so close to it.
That's the other thing, that
Thousands of moms,
this is something
thousands of
that is
families.
coming up now. There's been a lot more public to everybody. I mean, people that have been in this journey, we know about it. You know, we've heard about it. We've heard what he said, and we're with it. But for everybody else that they're barely, and then, I mean, going back to the posting, I will see, I mean, even people that know us, you know, and they know what I go through. I mean, I guess what they see in my stories with Michael. And then they will post right after the statements a story or a video of a completely high functioning,
yeah, great,
you know, which is amazing. And
God
I'm so
you.
grateful and so thankful for those kids as well, that they were able to get married, you know, have
yeah,
babies,
yeah.
have a job. I mean, kids, even younger kids, that they're, you know, the diagnosis has been scratched and has been taken away, and now they're thriving in school.
Asperger's?
Asperger's,
Yeah,
they're
that's been
thriving
taken
in
off the
school. They
spectrum.
can read, they can write the poems, you know, they can do all the things.
But pardon my ignorance, because I get ignorant interviewer. Asperger's is part of the spectrum of autism?
It used to be, yeah. Asperger's was, you know, see, people used to joke around like, oh, that guy's kind of weird, meaning he's got a little Aspergy. People used to say if you have Asperger's, you're just kind of quirky, but you're functional, you can talk, you can do everything, people get married. I mean, look, people say, oh, I can't tell you how many times people said, have you seen The Accountant? I mean, I think so one time, but that's like 10% of the 15. I don't know the percentage, but the vast majority of people that are on
It's 5 to 10%.
5%, okay.
You know,
That's wonderful.
Oh, these kids are being diagnosed, they're able to live independently.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, regardless of how much independence they get or they have as an adult, they still gonna have to live with their parents, you know, by like 30, 40. I mean, and again, just going through those statements and hearing him say everything, you know, from what he was talking to, from being independent to be on his own. I mean, this guy can escape. He's not, I mean, this is our son. He's not able to, you know, go to the bathroom independently, you know, but thank God that he's able to go to the bathroom. I have friends that their kids are older, maybe adults already, 22, 23 years old, and they still have to change diapers.
I think trying to see where the parents are or the moms are, they hear that and he uses the word, they will never do this. I think that's such a heavy statement for somebody that's like, has hope that their kids can change.
Look,
or it doesn't apply to them because, so let's go back. Let me ask you this as an ignorant interviewer.
It's okay.
The spectrum of autism.
Yeah.
For me, that I don't know much about it.
Okay.
Why is it called spectrum?
Well, because there's a spectrum. Because you have high functioning old Asperger's, meaning someone that can talk, articulate.
Okay.
Maybe they have little quirks. Maybe they're a little socially awkward. They're extremely intelligent. There's savants that are like Rain Man. Rain Man was an autistic savant. And then there's people that are in diapers, banging their head against the wall. They have to wear helmets, doing fecal smearing, never looking, stemming, not looking. Michael stems verbally and physically. He looks at us and smiles. Going to the bathroom is a huge accomplishment. If he goes, you know, if he goes number 2, he doesn't wipe himself, so we have to always look for that and look for flush toilets or little, you know, tubes in the toilet and looking at, and we're cleaning him. At 14 years old, I clean it. We clean his butt. We shower him. He won't shower on his own. He'll take his clothes off. He does. So he's a little less than maybe middle of the road. I mean, he's not functional on his own, but he can do certain things. He does not speak yet, and if God can do anything He wants to do. I get it.
Yes.
But the reality is, it's hard for people. There's a morning when Michael was first diagnosed. I'll tell you this, and this is a whole separate podcast. I'll save it for then. As the head of this house, as a servant leader, because I serve my wife, I'm supposed to protect her and love her and affirm her and submit myself to her in certain areas, but she trusts my leadership. I had to deal with the fact that I did not protect my son. As a trial lawyer, I question experts for a living. So if someone says, hey, my expert says this, I say, well, your expert sucks. And my expert says this. Well, my 2 experts say this. Well, those 2 experts probably are wrong and suck. My 2 experts say this. I question people when the government, well, I'm a defense lawyer. If I am part of the government, that's different. But it says, hey, your client's this, and this is what we have against them. You're wrong. You got to go through due process. You got to show the evidence. Let's go to a jury. I push back. But when it came to listening to the experts, we didn't. As the person I am and the Christ follower.
There should be protector.
That's me. And so I had to deal with guilt. When your child gets, Michael wasn't born that way. We can do another podcast. We can bring video. We can do pictures. We can talk about MTHFR and whether you have a gene that maybe gives you the higher probability. We can talk about all that stuff.
Because several people mentioned that that's in our DNA, and
Yes.
that's anyway.
And they might make you higher susceptible, but doesn't mean you have to have it. A lot of people have MTHFR gene, but don't have. They're not on the spectrum. So what took you over the edge? Michael wasn't born that way, for sure. It's not in our family. So I had to deal with that. But for me, and I think we kind of, for years, we went separately on this, right, Angel? But I think together, we over the years now, we've come together on this. There's a morning. Look, there's a morning.
What do you mean you went separate?
Well, I mean, we didn't talk about it really. We just grinded together and did. And
You
dealt
didn't
with
talk about the guilt that you had. About
I never shared it with her initially. No.
But why didn't you?
Because
Because you were talking about.
Because old school guys don't do that.
Okay, that's it.
I
Okay.
mean, I was just
Got it,
raised
got
a
it.
certain way, and then the Lord corrected me on that.
So
And
Nico,
then a lot of times, kind of like if you don't talk about it, like it almost, you're not accepting it that it happened.
Yeah.
Like
Denial.
Denial,
that's
like it
good.
didn't happen
Yeah,
that
yeah.
way. So, but then at the end of the day, I just feel in general, because we are getting the opinions and the response from people that not necessarily are living, the situations.
got it.
For the most part, don't get me wrong. There are some families and some mothers and some fathers that they are going through the situation, and then now they're maybe a little further on the other side. You know, within their kids are able to just have a mostly normal life right now. But then, for me, just when it gets a little tricky is when I get these responses or when I get these situations where people that truly have no idea. They're just kind of on their own mind saying, he's wrong. Like, why would he give up hope for these families? And that's the last thing that we're gonna give.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Totally.
Give up. I mean, no. This is. I mean, again, we try every day. We work and we do as much as we can, and it's every single day.
But Michael's been our greatest teacher.
Yeah,
I bet. There are challenges. Look, I'm going to read Jackie's. I felt in my heart that I need to read Jackie's post, and I have her permission. I spoke to her briefly, but Michael has been our greatest teacher. I mean, he's taught the kids. I think I'm a better husband. I think I'm a better daddy. I'm a better human. I think I served as district attorney better because of my empathy and I mean, I am not a patient person.
Amen.
In my flesh.
Okay, amen, I see that.
But you know that. But you have no choice. If I'm gonna submit to Christ, if I'm gonna love my wife, if I'm gonna serve my family, and then there's guilt because families you gravitate to autism being your identity.
Oh,
and then you feel guilty if you don't do everything and everything becomes about your child on the spectrum to the detriment of your other children.
My
to the
goodness.
detriment of your
Family,
marriage.
spouse,
to the detriment of everything. And autism is a big part of our life. It cannot be our life.
Dang, that is so powerful, Davida, because when we did the first one, I remember I joined several autism support
Sites,
groups for family members, and that's something that I heard a lot. This lady that hadn't stepped out of her house for a long time because she couldn't, but then my mind goes, does she have a husband? Does she have other kids that can help?
for sure.
Because if not, it's like Nico says, it becomes their identity, and they lose
And
life.
you feel guilt.
But that's the thing, this is important to do also because we talk so much about inclusion, we talk so much about awareness, we talk about a lot about, just everybody else being included other things. But when I step out, either a restaurant or a store or just any public place with my son who's stemming really loud, just out of being happy maybe, and then everybody's turning around, and and I don't take it in the wrong way. I don't take it like, oh my gosh, why are they looking at me? I want them to look because I want them to know this is our life. This is what it is.
This is what it
is. This is real. This is what we need to, create awareness for. This is what we need to normalize, and there's not normalize that we're getting, a lot more kids diagnosed. No, normalize that these are like, members of society in our community that they need to, and just yesterday, the day before, I went to pick up Leah after a youth group, and then one of the mothers came up to me and introduced herself, and then, I told her, I have this son and that son, then I have Michael, he's an 8th grade, she's like, oh my goodness, you're Michael's mom, and I was like, oh, because then my kids talk about him all the time, how much they love him and how much they celebrate every little milestone they do.
But there's a dark side to this too.
For sure.
But
We got to show that video.
But I want to tell people because when I decided, I remember the first time.
Couldn't see you.
Oh, you I remember the first time, Nico, I took my son to the pediatrics, right? The first time, right? Amanda was born, we took him to the doctor, and then me and Edith going through research and talking to you guys and other people, and then we took him to the doctor, and I'll tell you, at the same hospital we got different reactions when we decided what we decided about Amado. And it was so weird because, I mean, like you said, you felt guilt of protecting, that you didn't protect Michael, right? But I go there and I'm trying to make my decision and I'm thinking, man, they're gonna reject my son because I decided not to vaccinate him, right? To vaccinate him. And one of the nurses was going like this to me, like,
oh yeah, they look at you with disgust.
Disgust.
I know.
And I want to mention that because I'll tell you this: if you vaccinated your son or you didn't, I'll tell you this. Let's have this conversation because that also exists. When you, like you said, I'm on this camp, you're on this camp. Let's fight. That's what I got from 5 to 6 people when I posted that video. So I don't want this to become that because there is hope. There is still hope, and I think. To what you were saying, Nico, that you felt that you didn't protect your son. I think a lot of people.
That's just me.
Because let me ignorant interviewer again. Sure. Because I tell people all the time, let me make some ignorant questions because I don't know your world, right? I don't know. So, for example, Nico, you think there's a lot of people out there that rather fight and tell you that you're wrong because they already vaccinated their kids and they don't want to deal with the truth of that?
I think there's, because I was there. I think there's a denial. Number one, that because I wanted to push. Michael was diagnosed at 3. We knew before that, but he was diagnosed officially at 3, which you get better. And look,
you said you knew before when?
Before 3.
Okay.
I mean, he wasn't meeting his milestones. He was stemming. He was having not talking, sensory stuff, walking on his tippy toes. Couldn't have his feet on the grass. It wasn't potty trained. Wasn't speaking. There's just a bunch of things. Having meltdowns. It was reality, and we've gone through seasons. We've gone through and I'm going to read Jackie's post. I'm going to get there, and I want to show the video that went viral. 5.5 million views on a video that was to honor my wife, and it turned into something very dark with some idiots out there. But this is the other side of the world on that. And so all I'm saying is there's so many different facets. And when your kid is diagnosed, and we've talked to a bunch of families, what do you do?
Yeah.
I mean, they go ABA, speech therapy. There's like this trilogy of things you do, and it's almost like, well, you do something.
Is it helping? Yeah.
I mean, and you just want to do something, and you don't know, and then it settles in that there's this new normal in your life, because then now you have to accept that what you thought you were going to have with your child may not happen, and there's a guilt, there's a mourning. You mourn. I know there was a mourning. I had tough conversations with God. I never asked him why. At that time, I was strong enough in my faith to say, Lord, I don't know what you're doing with this. I'm not going to ask you why. There's a why. But I felt like I let Davi down. I felt like I let my children down. Now, that was me. That was my personality, having to deal with that and pray through it. And I did, and I continue to. But I'm not at the point, look, there's another thing too. We'll get there.
Hold on. Just so you'll know, I think this conversation needs to continue after this one because like bringing awareness to this, there's so many levels. There's so many, and I'll tell you this, Nico, before the first time we had after the first autism podcast we had, in those groups, and I'm so ignorant about this. I don't know anything about this. And mostly I saw a lot of moms by themselves.
And that's what it is. It's really sad just because they become very isolated. And then the reason is because of that. They'd rather just be home than to be exposed to what they're going to say, how they're going to look. Am I going to be able to restrain him if he has a meltdown?
Gotcha.
Some of these kids are lopers, which they just run. Am I going to be able to run after him?
And there's another moms, Davi, that I saw. A lot of moms feel selfish or bad about themselves if they don't make their kids' lives all about. They don't make.
That's the guilt.
That's the guilt.
Yes, but they're like they don't do anything else, and they have to find it.
And then the other children suffer
completely.
And then there's resentment, and then you don't sow into your other children, and you don't date your wife or your husband, and then you're not in this together. Then you start being isolated. Then we talked to another good friend of ours. I don't have permission to say his name, but he went to a point before he submitted and went with his wife. He goes, I didn't want to come home. I mean, and he had to come to a point where it's like, either I go home or I'm going to get divorced and my other children are going to suffer. And you just got to put your pants on and suck it up and people of faith. I mean, look, God doesn't make mistakes. He allowed it to happen for a reason. He wasn't born that way. God is using it. I'll tell you, about 3 years ago, because we pray, and we still pray. By the way, we still pray for Michael's healing.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Every night. We literally say, Lord, but have your way. Like Jesus prayed in Matthew 26, but let your will be done, not my will be done. I know what I want, but screw what I want. I mean, I want what you want. In eternity, Michael's going to be perfect. And I feel the Holy Spirit put on my heart. He said, Nico, can you imagine the 30-year-old Maya, or the 30-year-old Leah, or the 30-year-old Zaiter, our other 3 children, because they helped raise their special needs brother.
Totally, man.
And then you know what I said? When I said it out loud, I said, excuse my language, I said, fuck.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
The training that God has given them.
I said, okay, Lord. Now I can tell you, Maya at 16, Lee at 12, and Zaiter at 9 are different children. We're different.
Yeah.
So we raise them differently.
Yeah.
Everything's different. You can't change the equation and think you're going to get a result. We always want to change the equation.
Yeah.
I'm not God. We submit to him. We trust him. We know he's using this and he's working all this out for the good of those who love him. And call Matthew 28. I mean, so
Bringing
Romans
God,
28.
bringing God into the equation of your pain or your struggle and your questions, the result is going to be completely different. Nitsia Ignacis, I personally have been on this autism journey for over 23 years. My personal experience led me to believe that for my son, vaccinations did negatively affect my son. Some children don't have their own advocacy because they don't converse. Man.
Can we do this? Can we show the video?
That's the hardest part, I feel like, when you're, yes, let's show the video, but it's like, what is that? Just like not knowing what your son, your kid, your loved ones are going through because they're not able to express it in a way that you understand. So we have to become this, just guessing game. Is he hurting? Is he happy? Is he mad? Is he frustrated? Which at times he's all of the above. And all you can do, and then again, you have to submit, and then you have to be, in the same place with your husband, because this can be very frustrating, and it can trigger certain behaviors from a parent as well, because I mean.
And Nico, I'm glad. Thank you for letting us share this video, because there's a lot of people maybe watching that don't know you, don't know me. Sure. But then there's also the argument, well, you guys don't know, right? You're making this. Yeah.
Well,
but you guys don't know.
You guys know. Yeah. Well, this video I'm going to show you got 5.5 million views, literally, and who knows, maybe more.
Let's watch it first.
Well, let me tell you what the post said, because I want you to know what the intent was, and then what it turned into. We'll talk about this is the dark side of it. I said, I cannot honor my wife enough regarding the way she loves not only me, but our children. In a special way, she has heavenly patience and focus to nurture our son, Michael, who is on the spectrum of autism. This is just one of many situations we face with our precious son. The Lord continues to use Michael to teach us and mature our entire family. Now you can show the video.
Baby, no. Michael, stop, please. Amor, hey, you okay, puppy?
In the same way.
He's doing much better, baby. We made it to our destination, Michael. You feel better? Look at me. You better?
You're better.
Hey, Mom, you have to use your words, baby. You can't get that upset. Gonna go see the doctor? I love you.
I love you. A ladybug.
So that video started with a hopeful tone.
Well, yeah, it was an encouraging tone. It wasn't the first time Davi had posted, or I had posted challenges with Michael, and successes, not just the challenges, and the absolute vile, evil, ignorant bullshit. And then my stupid ass responds at first for like 2 weeks. I mean, probably that's why I partially went.
Okay, let me start. Let me ask you a question. David. Why did you post? Because that's an intense.
So let me get, yes, exactly. To me, this is normal. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of other, moms out there that they document a lot of the behaviors for the kids. The reason we need to do this is so we can see, is the behavior improving? Is the behavior getting worse? When is the time? When is it doing it? On this specific video, I was driving to the neurologist. It was an appointment. I was on my way to the neurologist. When I had already explained to him this meltdown that he's having out of nowhere, and then he would just kind of like look at me like, and I would like try to act him out. I'm like, you know what? I'm driving there right now. And then I have one of those things that you just, stick it
She wasn't holding it,
like
driving,
I'm not
balancing.
holding the, and then you can do, Siri, take a video. I mean, it's pretty simple, to do that type of thing. Oh, Siri heard me. Not you right now. But anyways, so that was my
the reason why.
purpose for that. Yeah, because I needed to show him what was
Yeah.
going on and how severe it was. Again, in my head, in my heart, in my daily life, this to me at that point, this specific season, it was very normal.
That was every day.
It was almost happening every single day to where I just knew it was coming. I know how long it was going to be, and I couldn't explain it to him. So, again, for somebody that this is the first time they're seeing it, I mean, like Nico said, I mean, the type of comments we got in the
Well, let me share.
So-
This is the dark side of it. So also, maybe because I'm too much of a trial lawyer, you can see she's not on a highway. She's on a back road. She's not going 70 miles an hour. She has the phone there. She's not, I don't know if they thought she was doing the whole selfie thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, vile comments like, man, what a great advertisement for abortions. What a great advertisement for birth control. Why don't you put him out of his misery? Just dump him somewhere. Fuck that, I ain't having kids.
Yeah.
Thanks for helping me make vile, what horrible parents. Why would you want to embarrass him that way? All this other stuff. And then of course, a slew of parents saying, this is our normal.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you can't live in that world, if you can't deal with that and do this and block, we all have bite marks.
I was going to ask
we all have bite marks.
The first time, because I wasn't aware of this, I did have awareness on this topic, but I remember one day you told me you went to an event and Michael bit you.
Oh yeah, right here in my scar. Yeah, we were there. He bit
There's
me.
been plenty. I mean,
All of us.
scratches,
All of
bites,
us.
She's
and
had-
I'm sure a lot of, I mean, Maya has had her hair pulled out. I mean, I showed you the video
Yeah.
inside there today. And again, not to say like this is it and this is normal. We need to. This is the other important thing for me that I would love to advocate and just kind of give moms and parents just a little more of a encouragement to where it comes with. As much as we want this not to be our norm, and as much as we want this not to be our daily situations, we need to be able to train for this as well.
Yeah.
right.
To know how to restrain these kids in a safe way,
Yeah.
to know, how is it going to escalate, because that's what happens a lot, and that's where a lot of the hurt comes, and then just not knowing how to deal with it. With a lot of times all they seek is like either pressure, or they just seek, like they need to be moved out of that specific environment they were in. So, or like, a little bit of time. So, the more we do it, but then also to encourage moms, that you're capable and you're able to
Totally.
do it. So
I love when I see God does it through many, many ways, and He does it through your kids. When God stretches your capacity and stretches the perspective of life and stretches your attitudes and changes and shifts you, like God does a lot of miracles in our lives through pain and through struggle. So
sure.
I want to say, Alejandra, thank you for sharing this. She says, I have a friend that has a friend that has two beautiful children. And she said that both kids were born in perfect health and they both were given shots and now both have been diagnosed with autism. She feels like she can't do much for herself because when she's out with them, people stare at them. Regina says his shots gave him seizures, brain inflammation.
Yeah.
He had to have brain surgery.
Look, this is a different podcast, but autism, and it's been factual now. Autism, I'm 52. Me growing up, it was 1 in 10,000.
1 in 10,000, for those that don't know.
Yeah, now as the studies show, and CDC, it's 1 in 31. In boys, it's 1 in 20. In California, it's 1 in 12. Now, if we don't figure this out and ask tough questions, and go wherever the evidence leads us
those
and
are the
do the
cold
right
numbers.
stuff,
Yeah.
then it's going to be 1 in 2 in about 25 years or 30 years. And who's going to be running this damn country? We're done. You want to talk about an epidemic? It's this. Now when people, and then let me tell you the ignorance out there. Well, we're just identifying autism better. Really? Well, autism isn't a blister. It's not a lump. It's not this. I was district attorney of Bexar County, Texas. It's the 3rd largest county in the state of Texas, the 6th largest city in the country. I've been in every crevice of this county, this huge county. I assure you, there's not a secret autism village where there's 52-year-old autistic men and women. There's 1 in 10,000. There's not 1 in 31. So we have to ask yourself, What's
happening?
Yeah.
That's all you got to do. Ask, and then lead us wherever the evidence goes. We can talk about vaccines. We can talk about there's no double-blind placebo studies. We can talk about they're not medicines. They're called biologics and why. We can do all that stuff. And when they were given, immunity, that you can't sue companies and what happened. We can do all that stuff. That can be a different.
Many
We'll
topics.
follow the science wherever it leads us. We'll bring George because he worked for Merck and he worked in the laboratory and also in clinical studies development and also in management. We can do all those things. All I'm saying is we have to figure this out. Now, is it just that? Is it a gene? Is it part hereditary? Then something triggers your genes.
Environmental, yeah.
That can happen. Is it environmental? Is it water? Is it food? Yes, it's everything. All I know is us and many, many families, especially when that went viral when I said that comment when I was DA, that vaccines can and do cause autism, that our child was normal to a certain point, and then something happened and we didn't drop him and we didn't get in a car accident. So what was it? What in the law, we call it an intervening cause. What caused it? And if science and the medical profession can't give me an answer, because they told us at first with Maya, because she broke out in hives and her 6-month shots also, that she was allergic to Davi's breast milk. And I said, Doc, please tell me you mean what's in her breast milk, right? Maybe she's like, her breast milk. I said, man. And this is before I knew anything. We still vaccinated. We didn't know. We kept vaccinating Maya. Then Michael was born. He had pyloric stenosis. They thought brother, we went through a bunch of shit on this deal. And we were just ignorant. I wasn't asking the right questions, and that's part of why I went through that. But we have to have these conversations. We have to talk. The families are being destroyed. Other children are being affected. Our society cannot sustain this. 1 in 31. Let that sink in. And not to mention, and research VAERS, the Vaccine Adverse Events Reporting System, part of the CDC. It's a self-reporting system. And the statistics will shock you. I mean, it's staggering what it is. And again, that's a different podcast.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
you have to mention it.
yes, that is it's a different podcast, and it's a huge topic, and it's something that needs to be talked about for sure. But then again, just going back to what this comments and what the situation brought up for me, as a mom and as a family, and I feel like it's important to also bring that support and awareness to, that we need to come together to be able to get through these times, to be able to support one another, to be able to encourage one another as well. So, because I feel like that's lacking a lot of times just because we feel like, oh, nobody else is going to understand, or nobody else is going through a situation. But I mean, just even looking at some of the comments and looking at some of the people that are here with us tonight, that's like, I'm going through the same situation. This is my life as well. This is, what my son is going through. So, and regardless of where we are in our journey, we're right in the middle. Michael's going through those teenage years, which
puberty's
they
another
are
challenge.
been so hard. And a lot of you guys probably know, and I remember hearing about it, from friends that had older kids. Just way into the period, I was like, what do you mean? It's going to get harder than this?
Another season?
And yes, it's another season. And that's not to scare or discourage everybody. That's just to kind of prepare. Yeah, because I know, even though I felt like I was prepared, I mean.
How has God shaped your perspective on this? Because sometimes, I tell people all the time, we don't have problems, we have opportunities for God to show off His glory in our lives. But how has God through Michael shaped your perspective in life or faith?
I feel, just celebrating every little milestone. I feel like in a way that I wouldn't do it just in general with, not that I don't celebrate the rest of my kids, of course, but if there's a new word, there's a new look. Even right now, you asked him for a song that he liked, and he responded.
I told him, hey, Michael, what's your favorite song? And he told me the song, and then I put it on.
He played it, and he started singing it.
He started singing the song right now.
But it was just, again, and those are the moments where you're just like, what just happened?
He's fully in there.
Watch it, and then the other kids see it, and then they're able to, Mommy, did you see that? Did you see what he said? Did you see what he did? And then for me as well, just being involved in a community where I've found support from other women, and other women praying for me, but then also other women that encourage me that they're going through the same situation, or they've gone through that situation. It's so good to be able to be in community with those women as well. I know some of them are here. I have friends that they had older kids as well, that they told me some of their journey, and I look up to them because they're so strong. Yeah. Some of these families have 2 kids on the spectrum.
Some
and
3.
And not only just with autism, but there's other type of physical disabilities as well. So that puts it in perspective for us.
I want to tell the people that are watching right now, please, if you have a son, if you know a friend, family member, a friend that has an autistic child, please put their name and their age in the bottom, because at the end of this podcast, we want to pray for the babies, the kids, and we want to pray for the family members, because we have a God that wants to be present in our lives in all areas, from what we do, how we feel, and the different areas of our life. So we put their names in the bottom. So Sonia says, we were told that we could not be seen by a pediatrician because we wouldn't follow the vaccine regimen. Literally, the doctor became angry that we simply asked. We already had 1 child on the spectrum, and we were concerned. Roy says, I admire you having Michael around, like me who have autism. Roy says that. That's right. Erika says, that's right, David. I still take my son out, even if he stems loud. I don't let people staring at him bother us. In the same token, I'm helping my son get comfortable being in stores.
Now look, and I got to work on this part. because we'll take Michael out, and I'm ready to go to battle. Because somebody, people are covering their ears, people are making faces, and I mean, and
Nico, okay, ignorant question. You said stemming. Is there different types of stemming, or?
Well, it's an overload, right?
It's like a sensory.
It's a sensory thing. So there's verbal stemming and there's physical stemming, like this flapping. It's stemming because he's so overly stimulated, and eye contact, and there's rocking. Everybody different. People walk differently. People will have outbursts, walk on their toes. They're dealing with this sensory overload, and so Michael.
So you've
And
reacted.
and it's a
He'll come out
release.
at some point.
Also, at times like stemming is just a form of release for them as well. Again, somebody that probably is a lot more verbal than Michael could speak to what stemming could be to them.
Yeah.
But I said no, it's a form of communication, it's a release as well. But he just, in this season right now, it's really loud. He just mainly happy, but it's just screaming a lot.
Yeah.
It doesn't gauge like where he's at, or and we try. Also, the other thing that I also want to encourage parents, and it's really hard to do as well, just because we kind of mold ourselves to what their needs are. We tend to pass on some of the disciplined action as well.
I do at least. I do. Dobby knows when to discipline Michael. I don't.
So let me go back. So Nico, you're in the store. You said that sometimes you want to go to war. Have you gone to war? My question.
Yes.
We'll pray for you.
I mean, not physically.
Give me an
yet,
example.
But I
Give
mean,
me
I
an
was.
example. Give me an example.
Well, somebody covering their or making faces.
What do you do
Or
and say-
looking
or
at
say?
them. I've said things. Now, other times I don't. I'll just stare them down and mad dog them and wait for them to
But
do
trust
something.
me, a stare from this guy.
I know.
Well,
I know.
but and I look, I pray about it, and I have to think they're well, maybe not, and that maybe it's because you know what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of here's the reality, and not just with a child on the spectrum, with any special needs child, and I'm okay with it. And let me tell you, I've submitted this to Christ. We're not going to have our golden years. There's not going to be a retirement for us, and that's okay. I'm not bitching about it. It's a joy that God chose us. I'll rest plenty, or I'll be worshiping in heaven. I got plenty. I got eternity to do that. This is our journey. But I think to myself, when we leave, and this is why, and there's another discussion, and why I'm very hard on other children. I expect a lot out of them. And I tell people when I talk to daddies especially, because I want them to lead their families, your children, I want my children to be dangerous. And let me tell you what I mean by that. I want them to be dangerous with their faith. The world is competing with ideas. They're trying to mold them. I said, no, we are Christ followers. We submit to a biblical worldview. The world will come. The enemy will work through circumstances and pressure. And they need to be dangerous. Like, shit, that kid, these people, they are persuaded by this worldview. So that's dangerous, right? They need to be dangerous with their faith. They need to be dangerous to their logic. We're not hovering parents where we save our kids from every hardship. They need to suffer. They need to know pain. And so we try to limit that, but we want them to think. They have to critically think out of situations because they're going to have to critically think for Michael someday. And then, yes, they have to be dangerous with their bodies. I never want our children to have a victim mentality, and if they have to go to physical war to protect Michael, and I tell them, I go, if anybody ever touches Michael and you don't smash those little pricks, I mean, smash them, and then you're going to be in so much trouble at home. Papi, but I'm going to get in trouble. You will never be in trouble. I will, and this is where I don't mess with this. I deal with people where special needs kids are soft targets. They're sexually abused. They're physically abused. They're ignored. They're this, and I get this righteous anger because I want to defend all of them. I can't defend them all. And so all I can do, and I'm working through this, man. Look, this is a journey for all of us.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, thank you. And so, but someday, the Lord is going to call me home. I pray it's not for another 40 years, but whenever it is, my children need to be prepared because they have this duty, and they all want the duty. I'll tell you really quick, and I'll pass this over to wherever you want to go. But Leah goes, Papi, she's our 12-year-old.
Yeah.
She goes, Papi, Michael can live with me when he gets older. And I said, Angel, that's so sweet of you. But maybe Maya wants him to live with her. I said, no, he's going to live with me. And I said, well, sweetheart, when you get married someday, you have to check with your husband. Because that has to be a decision that you and your husband make way down the road. And she goes, well, if he won't let Michael live with us, then he will not be my husband. I said, fair enough. Checkmate.
Well, a little while ago, I was talking to Maya. I'm connecting everything. I told Maya, tell me a story. If somebody were to tell me a story about Michael, what would it be? And she said that one day you guys had to leave and you were going to be together. And he says, so I stayed with the kids and I stayed with Michael. And he says, and then Michael started getting mad. He started getting mad and started hitting himself. And he started running up and down. And he was mad going through the door. He wanted to get out. And then she's like, I don't know what to do. So I don't know what to do. So he started going upstairs and I follow him upstairs. And he's thinking, I don't want to call mom and dad. I want to take care of this, but what do I do? She says, so I just hugged him. See, I just hugged him. Ooh.
Yeah.
She says, I just hugged him and I started singing in his ear. She started singing in his ear. I started singing in his ear. It's like, you're on my sunshine, my only sunshine, right? She started singing the song. And then he just started calming himself down. And he started going like this.
He does that.
I love you.
He does that.
I love you. He says, for the first time, he said, I love you without me prompting him to say it. He said, he just said it by himself. And like you say, it's in there. There's something in there. And God give us the wisdom to pull out what's in there.
Yes.
And other people.
And pull out in us what's in there.
Totally.
So there's times where I took a video. I can't show it, but I took a video where Zaither was laying with him. And we were looking through the little camera that we have in his room. And Zaither went up there. Zaither's the big brother. And Zaither was laying down
Michael,
with
come
him,
here, baby.
and he was laying there looking at him, and it was a beautiful moment. And I'm looking at it, and looking at, I'm not an emotional guy, but it gets you. I said, Lord, and I see the beauty in what God is doing. In the morning when I'm driving them to school, Michael will get in your face, and he does this to Zaither, and then Zaither just sits there and lets him do it. Yeah. The patience and the beauty.
What's up, Michael?
Michael, say hi, buddy.
Come here, Michael. Say hi to the camera, Michael.
Ven.
Ven, Michael.
Michael
Come here,
Anthony,
Papa.
come here, buddy.
Ven.
Michael, ven. Look. Ven aquí. Ven.
When we were leaving a little while ago, ¿te acuerdas? He had him by his face.
Can you say hi, guys?
Hi guys,
He said, my name is Michael.
I love you.
my name's Michael.
Michael what?
Michael Anthony LaHood.
Good job, buddy.
Let's go.
Good
I
job,
love
buddy.
you.
What was that song you liked, Michael?
Michael,
Wait, what was
do you
the
like?
song you liked? What was the song? Hey, what song were you singing? What song were you singing?
Remember the song,
What
Michael?
was it?
House, something house,
what's
party
the
house.
Love you,
I
guys.
love you, guy.
No,
No?
No?
What
Okay.
do you need? You okay? What is it?
No, it's
Oh,
mommy's
you
iPad.
want the
You can get it
iPad.
after, Daddy.
We'll give it to you in 5 minutes, okay?
I love you.
my name's
Thanks, guy. 5 minutes, buddy.
Check this out. This, I think,
You can have it in a little bit. You have to wait, okay?
He says, raising our son on the spectrum is the most difficult and rewarding thing in my life. I think that's the title of our podcast. It's the most difficult and rewarding
Yes, for
thing in my
sure.
life. I agree with Nico. I'm better human because of it. Romans 8:28 is my everyday scripture. Thanks for having the discussion.
I know Luis. He goes to our Bible study.
Really?
Stephanie is a dear friend of Davi. Luis is a
Well,
good friend of mine.
Stephanie's
That's
husband.
Stephanie Luis. And so Romans 8:28 says God works all things out for the good of those who love Him and are called according to His purpose. Right. So there's two things here. So it's not chance. God will work it out. Now it won't look the way we look because remember
Yeah.
God's working off eternity.
Completely.
And so this is what a lesson. What I think I'm more biblically literate because
Mm-hmm.
of Michael. I can just do a whole show on how God has used Michael. Now, am I there yet? I'm close.
Got it.
I'm just
Yeah,
being
yeah,
honest.
yeah.
Like I'm there with my brother's murder.
Yeah.
That's another testimony. My brother was murdered on August 15th, 1996 in my parents' driveway. We walked out minutes later. And I tell people that there's nothing you could do to convince me to ask God to change it.
Yeah.
And people don't understand
Yeah,
that
they
I would
don't.
not change my brother's murder.
If you're not spiritual, you can't understand that spiritual.
Well, I mean, I didn't get there right away. I was
I
stuck
agree,
in
I
a
agree.
prism of
Yeah.
unforgiveness and hate for 8 to 10 years. But now, today, in 2025, you couldn't do There's nothing I would.
Richard Bill says our son is 33, mild cases, lives on his own, and holds a job. I think that's why I think that's why a lot of parents got mad at what RFK said, because RFK goes and says, you know what, he'll never do this, and then when your mind says no. One hope,
Yeah, of
they
course.
feel they're attacking their hope, and then they have like you said when I talked to you the first time, you said maybe these people are not there; they're in different seasons.
Yes.
So it's hard to describe every
Which,
season.
I mean, how amazing is that? Who was this?
Amazing,
Who
yeah.
was his name?
Richard Mills.
That's so awesome. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, and we hope and pray that one day that could be us as well.
I
you
went
know?
to I went to an event the other day, some months ago. I went to an
Michael,
event. No, Michael.
almost, buddy. We're almost finished.
Michael's doing his own production, guys.
Michael,
Thank
say
you,
hi.
Mike. Man. Guys, thank you for sharing your experiences. Thank you if you just logged on. Thank you for logging on. Thank you that we can have this conversation. If your son is in the spectrum of autism, or you know somebody, put their name and their age, and
Yes.
we're going to be praying for them. So
And then also, I mean, if you're a mother, if you know a mother as well, you know, looking for some community or looking just to get together with other, you know, family members or parents that are going through some situation, just let us know as well, because you know we have our friend Stephanie in here as well, who's awesome, and she's been a great support as well, and just a good, you know, ear for me, and because she, you know, she goes through the
has a
same.
son
she has a
And
son.
Nico, I'll tell you this. One of the reasons that I had a hard time because this topic.
Hold on, buddy.
I just had a son. I'm 45 years old, right? 45. I'm 50, but I had him at 45. And I was so nervous, Davida, when I was going to get into the decision of vaccinating my son. Because I talked to old school people, I'm gonna say it that way, and they all know vaccines every day. Right? So they tell me, have you talked to a doctor? And I'm making my decision, but I also get rejection from different. So I'm trying to learn, right? But in my learning, asking questions. But the other day I went to an event and there's this older gentleman. I'm sitting there talking to him and like a normal conversation. And as we're talking, he says, I'm just letting you know if you think I'm weird or not. But like right in the middle of the conversation, I'm on the spectrum. He tells me, bro, I didn't know what to do with that. Yeah, because like you say, there's different levels, different seasons, different. But he tells me, hey, bro, if you think I'm weird, I'm sorry, but I'm on the spectrum. I didn't know what to do with that information. But like you said, there's different experiences, different people.
And again, I mean, that's kind of like when Nico says, well, that's what's called spectrum, because there's so many different characteristics, there's so many different behaviors, there's so many different, everybody's gonna look different, yes, some of the behaviors that some of the kids go through or crisis or episodes, those can look similar at times.
They can be violent. I deal with them in the justice system.
They can be I mean, there was times that he was very
God bless
aggressive.
Easton. God bless Easton. Easton is 8 years old. Thank you, Miles
Cecilia,
Rivera. And
three.
God bless Miles Rivera. God bless Tyson Jones. God bless Brady, who's 9 years old. Ethan is 9 years old. God bless him. Evan, 6 years old. Alejandro, praying for Alejandro. Jackson Fowler. God bless. JT, who's 9 years old. Theo, 6 years old. Luke Jacques, he's 6 years old. Does autism predominantly affect males over females?
More males. So
More
males, it's out of the 1 in 31, and the reason why they believe is because of the testosterone levels, and it predominantly affects children that are black as well because of the higher testosterone levels too. So out of the 1 in 31, 1 in 20 are males. Think about that. Now, California has its own stats, and there's an argument for why there is.
Yeah.
But there's so many different experiences. I really want to read Jackie. So Jackie Schlegel is, and it's a little, I'll read it quickly, but please bear with me. Jackie Schlegel, Schlegel. She's an advocate. She's a warrior. She's a very outspoken.
Mother.
She's a mommy. So we don't have a quirky kind of autism, and it's time people stop pretending we do. My family has a long, beautiful, neurospicy legacy spanning generations. We joke about it, we embrace it, and it's woven into our identity. But what my daughter lives with is not quirky. It's not cute. It is not love on the spectrum. Watch out for Michael. It's medically complex. It's aggressive behaviors. It's no nonsense danger. It's might walk into traffic or burn the house down kind of autism. We didn't get the autism people like to post about on Instagram. We got the kind that no one wants to talk about. And when you try to minimize that reality, you're not just being naive. You're denying the lived experience of millions. You're gaslighting families into silence, and you're contributing to a system that fails our most vulnerable. Lately, I've seen people attacking RFK Jr. for talking about this reality. But let me be clear. The divide in the autism community didn't start with him. It started when families like mine, those of us in the trenches, begged the world to pay attention. And for the first time, someone with a national platform said what we've been screaming for 20 years. If you're not the one consoling your child at 2 a.m., amen for that. If you've never answered the door to the police after your child eloped, if you're not worried about every day what about happens when you die, maybe sit this one out. Here's what we're living through, and these are some hard truths. Hard truths you won't hear about from the feel-good autism crowd. 1 in 31 in the U.S. has autism, a 370% increase since 2000. 1 in 8 children with autism have seizures. That rises to 1 in 4 after age 13. 60% show severe behavioral challenges. Nearly 15% have ADHD. 39% have anxiety, so there's dual diagnoses. Up to 84% suffer from gastrointestinal pain and dysfunction, leaky gut, things like that. They're 40 times more likely to die from preventable injuries. Nearly half wander off or elope, many into life-threatening situations. 38% have intellectual disability, with 14% finding paid employment. Only 14% find life expectancy for moderate to severe autism, 36 years. That's not all. Not a week goes by that I don't get a call from a mom saying, I don't know how I'm going to do this another day. Not a day goes by that I don't ask myself, who's going to take care of my child when I'm gone? Let me be blunt. This is a crisis. The cost of care is bankrupting families, true. 85% of adults with autism live at home. Many will end up in state-run institutions, costing you, the taxpayer, over $250,000 a year. 80% of girls with disabilities will be sexually assaulted in their lifetime. Be sure, tell me again what a gift it is. We love our children more fiercely than words can express. But don't confuse our love for denial. We give up our sleep, our careers, our futures, just to give our kids a shot at theirs. We've earned the right to speak truth, even when it's uncomfortable. This isn't just our story, it's the canary in the coal mine. And if you're still ignoring us, ask yourself why. Unbelievable post by Jackie.
God bless Jackie. God bless Jackie.
But this is my point. So Bobby was talking for us and Jackie and many people out there. Not everybody, I get it. But
because there's a group, Nico, that's frustrated with the status quo, that this is the way it is, and that's fine. I think there's a big group of people that are just tired. It's like, if we can't fix it for ours, let's fix it for the people that are coming.
Well, we need to, Daddy. But even if you don't give a crap about people and you don't have empathy or sympathy, our country cannot survive. Think about that. If autism was 1 in 10,000, and there's no 52-year-old autistic people walking around, by the way. You'll find them 1 in 10,000. You won't find them 1 in 34. Then we have to say, what's going on? Ask the questions, and everything has to be on the table. Everything, from food to medicines to vaccines to environmental everything has to be on the table. And then you'll get the people that say, well, correlation is not causation. Okay, fair enough, because nobody wants to pay the money to do the studies, which would be an easy study to do, by the way, easy. But there's strong evidence. There's correlative. In my word, correlation to a murder means we investigated who murdered that person. We don't just say, ignore it.
You follow the thread.
You have to, because you need an answer.
Yeah.
We, even if you care, forget empathy. We need an answer or this country cannot survive. Now, you look at the Amish. What's their autism rate? Very low. Why? Ask that question. California, 1 in 12. Why? Very harsh on their mandates. Okay, it's something. And to be called a quack or this or whatever when there are no double-blind placebo studies, Jack, I will argue and I'll litigate that every day of the week, and you'll look like the dumbass that you are because you're not relying on evidence.
Let me take advantage of this moment. Maybe one of these days, I was telling Nico that thank God we can have this conversation, kitchen table conversation, right?
Yes.
But literally, with the good coffee that Davida makes. I'm sorry for you that you can't taste this through the thing. But one thing me and Nico were talking, we want to create do it again, but like a forum. Invite family members and just have a conversation, even with doctors or nurses or people that don't agree with what you're saying, and just bring them in and let's have a full forum to have these conversations.
Well, and George, it needs to be here as part of it.
Cece says, my 2 sons, Corbin and Ryan, I just recently became a widow as well. So I'm now alone. Well, I'll be moving to Bexar County, soon to be close to my best friend. Elizabeth says this, what do you do if they go to public schools and vaccines are a must?
They're not a must.
Not in public schools,
They're
but
not a must.
especially,
In private schools, because they don't get public funding, but you just sign the waiver,
public
conscientious objection, and that's it. But the verbiage they use is that you have to do this. Just say, where's the waiver? Oh, you want the waiver? Well, we don't have them here. Go to the website and get them. Okay? And
It's not the same as religious exemption?
It's a different way. It's basically whatever the hell if you don't have to put anything in your kid. Because it's a medical intervention. I mean, what doctor will force you to do chemo? What doctor forces you to do a surgery? They don't do it. But with this, they do. I mean, think about the ignorance, and not all doctors. But this is the deal. They're taught how to deal with the family. Again, that's a whole separate discussion.
There's so much.
It's a huge topic.
When we started talking about this, I talked to a particular nurse, and he said this phrase. He says, the thing with us, bro, he says, we're taught protocol. Like it's in our system, and that's part of protocol. That's what he said. We're stuck with this is what we do. This comes in. This is what we do. Margie Leckler says, I'm listening. I have 2 special needs boys. God bless you, Margie. We're going to be praying a bit.
I'm going to read this one. Diana says, ever wonder what happens to our babies after they grow up who might not have family support they need? Those stuck in the middle of who might not be eligible for group homes, but can really be left on their own after 18. Here in San Antonio, we have a small nonprofit taking the lead. Look up Southwind Fields. And that's a big deal as well, especially aging out of school, because again, depending on how the family dynamic looks like, some of these moms are left alone as well, or they're being taken care of by their older grandma or grandpas or whatever it is, and they're just not able to control them in a way that they can still get physical, they can still get violent, they can still get uncontrollably emotional, and then if they
People get hurt. Kids are bigger.
For sure. And again, I mean the sleepless nights, and that's a big thing. I mean, and I talk about it, I just don't want to sound like I complain too much about it, but I mean, we go. I mean, like 5 hours is the most that we probably sleep, at a time, and it's a good night. But there's times that he's up all night. Yeah. He's up all night, and then we're back at it. We have other kids that we need to attend to. We have other things that we need to do, and then and that's the same thing that's the first thing that we ask, within our chat or with other moms, like, how was your night? Or if the weather was weird, the moon was weird, there was something in the environment. How did your son sleep? Because we didn't kiss.
Couples can't get a reprieve, and you need a reprieve. Yeah. And you feel guilty saying that.
I agree.
You need a break. You need adult time. Yeah. You need and we need organizations. Look, if I was independently wealthy, we would have an organization. Number one, to the shock, because you have to deal with the shock. That what do I do in the morning? You're shocked. What the hell do I do? And then there's mourning. And there's a mourning, whether people want to admit it or not. There's a mourning. Yeah. Because your idea of what you thought your kid was going to be like That's not going to happen for the most
Yeah, yeah,
part.
totally.
I mean, God, look, God can. We always say, Lord, we know Michael can wake up and say, "Hey, Pop, well, can I have something for Poppy? Can I have something there?" Absolutely. Is he likely to do that? Probably not. But we trust you.
Yeah, yeah.
We trust you, Lord. Yeah. Now we're going to keep on loving him. Give us the stamina. Give us the wisdom. Lead us in the right direction. Help us to raise him and raise our children at the same time. But that's more people of faith.
Nico, when you came on, when you were on the first vax, right? You said this statement.
Yeah.
I believe that autism
Vaccines can and do cause autism.
Do you think you've been more aggressive with that statement more so lately, more vocal about it? Do you think you become more brave? Because I tell you this.
Same.
Okay, so let me ask you this: so somebody is having a baby tomorrow, right? And they're coming to you, and they say, "Hey, this is my first baby." What would you tell them?
I've never told anyone not to vaccinate.
Never.
Never, not publicly or privately. I would tell them what
We
our journey
share our
is,
story, yeah.
and I tell them, get the
Our
truth
opinion.
about vaccines. Do this. Go to the Children's Health Defense. We give them here. Educate yourself.
that's what I do.
Because you have to educate yourself.
Yeah.
There's such. Pull the inserts. Look at the inserts. Look at the marisol. Look at the aluminum.
ingredients,
Look
yeah,
at the lead.
just like
look at
Edith
the
was saying, you know,
formaldehyde.
just
you know.
There's this guy. There's
red
this guy
guy.
that goes through the what do you call it?
Ingredients?
No, he goes to the
The
supermarket and he goes this. Hey, who buys this? He goes like this. Who buys this? He says, look it in the back. Look at what it has, and then he says, research what it does to you, and that's all it does. And I can imagine. So imagine with vaccines. Hey, this is your vaccine, because somebody gives this recommendation. They don't recommend not to vaccinate, but he says, ask your doctor what this vaccine contains.
But look, here's the deal. We talk about informed consent. You know what that means? Informed consent means that you are fully informed, not just vaccines are safe and effective.
Got it.
All right, fully informed, and then you can consent. And there's arguments that medical professionals get paid if the X amount of their practice is vaccinated, which to me is a conflict of interest. And Fauci, don't get me started.
Yeah.
And pharmaceutical companies. I mean, just with the COVID vaccine.
I mean, this could be a total other part.
I know that, but
I'm just
I
saying.
just gotta say, because people are
Well, no, of
curious
course,
about it.
yeah, but
I'm
I'm-
just saying, you gotta ask the questions, and we have to have a fidelity to truth. If we don't have a fidelity to truth and follow it wherever it leads us, if it leads us to playing pincushion with our kid, then we playing pincushion with our kid. We can't be afraid.
Yeah.
And there's not my truth, and there's not this truth, and you're the experts. And the way that the medical profession is, and pharmaceutical world is, well, you don't have a degree. So what? There's some mommies out there that are way more educated than doctors.
agree.
You ask doctors,
So true.
what's
That's so
in
true.
the vaccine?
So true.
They have no idea.
Oh, yeah.
They know, what does this do to you?
Yeah.
How many studies? How many double-blind placebo studies have they done? And when were they done?
Bro,
And
a
what was the
loving
sample size?
mom,
They won't tell you
a
anything.
loving mom will become the best researcher
Oh,
in
yeah.
the
These
world.
mommies are amazing.
Well, I mean, you're trying to figure it out how to
mommies are
navigate through this.
Yeah.
You know, if something's not working and you have these behaviors and you have a son or a kid that is suffering and it's help, then you're gonna have to try. I mean, the things that we tried with poor Michael, you know, from
Yeah.
like nasty tasting oils to rubs to lights to treatments to, you know, like just kind of like what he's saying, you know, like just right here, who was talking, I think it was Margie saying at first there was no time for a shock, but to be proactive
Yeah.
for them. What's next and what can I do? But then, you know, also lots of tears in the shower.
God bless you,
and-
Margie.
Lot of tears
yes
in
to
the
that
shower.
one, because I'm with you in the
And
tears in the shower.
And I'll just interject
So
with
many
that one.
mommies pray alone. They cry alone.
Yes, yes, they cry in the shower, but I would just interject, cry to God, because sometimes just
Amen.
cry, just
yeah,
crying
for
by
sure.
yourself, because there's a difference. Crying for yourself because out of pain, it relieves
But
and
husbands,
you rest.
Well, a lot
be
of
there
times, yeah,
and,
it's-
and engage with your wife.
A lot of times it's a form of release as well. Just there's a lot of emotional overload for us. I feel that, you know, at times it's not, you can't let it take over in that moment because you have to react. You know, either he's having a meltdown, other times he's having a crisis, he's hitting himself, and I need to remove him from that environment. But then when that happens, the adrenaline is done, and then everything settles. You're like,
Yeah.
I mean, to start, I don't even know how can I live, and I can still do it. You know, like 100 and whatever pound kid, just pick him up and run with him. But then, you know, that just it's all the emotional, and when you realize what just happened, you're like, oh my goodness, you know, like, I mean,
There's so many areas, so many ways that we can talk about this in so many. Like I think each topic has its own.
yeah,
Oh,
for
yes.
sure.
Oh, it's impressive.
It's a huge topic.
It's a huge topic.
Yeah, but I mean, I would love to, like, you know, and again, I'm getting some moms because I would love to have conversations, which is, you know, also, yes, the parents, I mean, the dads are welcome, but just, you know, some of these moms that they're struggling through the
We should do a conversation forum, and then the moms come in, and then we
Yes.
do a session just for them with you, because I agree. Like when you were telling me, when you were mentioning about that, I can only imagine a mom going through their own emotions, maybe fighting with a husband or having a
You take it out on it.
or you don't even have time to grieve for your own personal things because you got to be proactive.
Oh, for sure.
So I can only imagine. So
Mommies are the unsung heroes.
Totally, I agree.
So when I
I
speak
agree.
about Davi and honor her, it's not bullshit. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not, I'm not faking. I don't need brownie points. I don't need brownie points from anybody. Davi's my wife. I'm her husband. We're in this in life together. God has trusted us. We have other children too. Michael has a purpose on this earth. God is using this purpose. Yes, he allowed this to happen. He was not born this way, and he'll tell me once I get to heaven if I don't see the reason why before. And I've already seen it. I've already seen why before. But you have to. We're dealing with so much ignorance, malice, evil, anger, opportunism. I mean, there's just people that have their own motivations, and we have to do more to educate people, to give them hope, comfort, and to give them a break and a reprieve. There's no reprieve. And then there's what do I do? Is there trust you can set up? What about my child? What if there's not other siblings? And then look, what if you have a child on the spectrum and then another child not on the spectrum? That second child is essentially a single child. There's no other sibling. I mean, and then what about support for that child? That's why other kids being educated, and then there needs to be a group of, and I'm not into the whole, kumbaya bullshit. I'm just not into that. That's not my style. I'm into reality. I'm into encouragement. I'm into equipping people, and I'm into education. That's what I'm into. And then us just enjoying and training these and preparing these children. What do you need, Angel?
Oh.
You need
Hi,
money?
yeah. This is another beautiful little girl. This is the most beautiful skin ever.
Who's Michael gonna live with?
Me.
You sure?
Yes.
You sure about that?
Before we started the program, I was showing Davida this song that I love. It's called Still. Oh my God. It just messes me up. I was showing Davida this song. It says, the sky was clear, Kentucky Blue says, you led me high up the mountain to show me the view. And you said, wherever this journey takes you, just trust me, I'm already there. He says, I had no way of knowing then just how hard the rain would fall, how fierce would be the wind. It's been beautiful and terrible, more painful, more wonderful than I ever could have known. You know, so it's an amazing hard journey, and it's an amazing, beautiful journey. I mean, with God, like you said, including God. So, Davia, could you pray for us? Could you pray?
Well, can we show that video that Davia want to show? We have one more
Which
video
one?
to show. The one with the girl with those stats.
Oh, and then we're going to show another one.
And then the other one? Okay.
Okay.
Let's just show this to you.
So it's Autism Awareness Month, and I want to share some information, statistics with everybody who might not be aware of what actually goes on in the autism world. So approximately 70% of moms suffer from severe depression at the time of their child's diagnosis. 87% of autism parents report feeling socially isolated. 60% of parents reported high levels of parenting stress, and they feel more like managers than parents. 50 to 70% of parents feel emotionally disconnected from their own identity. 67% of parents are physically and emotionally exhausted, experiencing burnout. 56% always are in survival mode. Divorce rates of families are higher than those of neurotypical families. Mothers often experience PTSD very similar to combat veterans. Autism's parents can spend an extra $30,000 per year and up to $2.4 million of care for their autistic child. 60% of autism moms have to reduce their work or stop working altogether. 1 in 4 have serious financial hardship due to their autism expenses. Siblings of autism children have higher levels of emotional burden, anxiety, depression, guilt, loneliness, and even emotional behaviors. Wait time to get a diagnosis can be 9 months or longer for diagnosis and therapies. 74% of autism kiddos have poor quality of sleep, which also impacts families. 50% of individuals with autism have self-injurious behavior. 20 to 30% have moderate self-injurious behavior. Only 5% of autistic adults live independently, while 82% reside with their family. Autism average life expectancy for autism individuals is only 36 to 54 years, compared to the average of 72 years and plus. These are just some of the statistics that us autism moms and parents face raising an autistic child. And these are things that I think people need to be aware of. I'd love to hear your thoughts and hear any type of resources or support you have in the comments. So it's autism.
Lecrae, in one of his songs, this Christian rapper says, and in steps Jesus. He talks about all the bad in his life, and then he says, but in steps Jesus. And I think that's our life. If we don't include Christ, we have our tolerance level has limits. Our ability to do many things. So I can do all things in Christ. It's not just a nice sounding
Everybody loves
verse.
Philippians 4:13, but they don't understand what it means,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. But I can do all things, and like you were saying that verse, that God can work anything for good. Anything, whatever.
Anything.
As bad as it feels or seems, God can use anything for good. So
Remember, he's working off eternity.
Yeah,
he's
so,
working
yeah.
generationally.
The timeline is completely
He's not.
different.
We're
Yeah.
stuck here, and he's working here.
Yeah.
It's completely
So
different.
the pain here can be a glorious
Sure.
tomorrow. So, David, you were mentioning a little. I don't want to be negative. You said a little while ago, and I can only imagine sometimes because we don't never want to be negative. But right, but there's negative moments. There's moments of pain.
Yeah, and not so much negative. I think it's just more of a truthful for. I mean, well, you know, with this situation, I feel like
It's a
you know,
beautiful balance
not,
from
like,
God, yeah.
Again, you know, there's a fear of accepting certain things. I think in certain, you know, just certain situations when it comes to
Yeah.
the spectrum in general. But I just feel like, I mean, we need to be able to.
Yeah, because we started with the incident with Michael in your car, right? But I think we got the last video. Jeff, I have a Teflonic memory. There we go. Let's see this one. See if you can give me the volume.
Get
There
the
we go.
volume.
Let's see this one. Because we have moments like this also. Nice
Hit
guy.
the road, Jack. Phone, please.
No, you're not gonna get my phone. Sing me the song. ¡Qué guapo! Di qué guapo, qué guapo. Tú.
Qué guapo, qué guapo.
Sing me a song, Michael, and I'll give you the crackers. I'll give you the rice crackers.
Rice crackers.
How many do you want?
Chocolate crackers.
Yeah, I have chocolate rice crackers. You want some?
Want some?
How many?
2 crackers.
Ok, dame un besito. Yo te doy. Ay, ¿cómo te amo?
Te amo.
Yo te amo más. Sing me a song. Hit
Rice
the road.
crackers. Chocolate crackers.
I have them right here in my purse. Sing a song. Hit the road, Jack. Acá están. Mira, I have them over here. Sing a song.
Hit the road, Jack.
Rice
So all we can say is those are heaven. That's heaven in small containers in our kids.
Oh, for sure.
And we thank God for that.
You rejoice in those moments, and
Yeah.
you learn to appreciate things more.
Completely.
You learn to appreciate. Like there's times where we thanked God for Michael being up all night but not hitting himself.
Oh, for
Yeah.
sure.
Think about that, right?
Yeah, totally.
So in all things, right? 1 Thessalonians 5 says, "Be thankful in all things, not for all things, in all things." So we're in a situation where there was times where Michael's up all night, and we're like, "Well, thank God we're not playing football."
Yeah, yeah.
There's times where we have switched off where
I mean,
we're
it's even,
sleeping
even
like
just
this.
this year, you know,
He's hitting
last
himself.
last year, this season, like this month, he was up all night, but he was hitting himself and he was screaming. So now, you know, he's up and we're able to just kind of see him
we're
through
grateful
the,
for that.
you know,
Yeah.
see him through the
So,
camera.
man, thank you for sharing your journey. Thank you.
And
Thank
then
you.
there's 3 nights. We're on a 3-night run where he has slept all night, or
Yeah.
more than 5 hours.
Yeah.
And so we rejoice.
Yeah.
We rejoice for
Amen.
that. Yeah.
Amen.
Yes.
So before we go, thank you for everybody that put their son's names or somebody they know and their ages. Thank you very much. Mothers, God bless you. Before we go, David is going to pray for all of us, and especially for the moms listening today and their kids.
Heavenly Father, we just want to thank you for this opportunity to be able to just speak a little bit of our journey and share what we go through as a family, what we go through as a community as well. Just open our hearts to be able to also support, you know, just both sides. Like Nico said, we rejoice in those beautiful small moments, and then we also rejoice in those hard times. You know, I pray for peace, I pray for strength, I pray for joy, and all of it, because it's hard to find that, you know, more than anything in these situations. Again, we love you, we praise you, and let's hope that this, you know, just transfer to a good conversation after this one as well. You guys have a great night.
Amen.
And in the Lord's name. But so we'll bookend this thing. So Bobby Kennedy's statements did not offend us.
Okay.
He was speaking truth. He was speaking about the vast majority of people that are on this journey. For the 10 to 15% or 5% or whatever it is, God bless you. Enjoy that,
Yeah,
but don't not recognize what the rest of us go through.
Yeah.
So thank you, Bobby, for being a champion for years. We know him, and this is not a biased statement. This is an objective statement, because I've publicly disagreed on some other things that he's done that I don't agree on. But on this, he's genuine, he's authentic. He's been in the battle.
Yep.
Yes.
He believes what he says, and his organization is amazing and giving a lot of people hope. And now God has put him in a position. Remember, 4 years ago, he was canceled, and he was top 10 people giving false information out there. And now look what the Lord has done to him, put him in a position. So I pray wisdom over him and protection, and thank you for courage. And we should encourage Bobby Kennedy because he did not say anything that should have pissed off anybody.
Yeah.
He was talking to the vast majority of us, and so God bless Bobby.
Thank you for logging on today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for participating. But also, if you know somebody out there that would benefit from this conversation, please share it with them. Share it in their inbox. Also, tag somebody if you can and share it on your threads. Thank you very much, and God bless.
Ciao, guys.